even één keer de naam van de start-up. Dembrane. Oké. Hello? Yes. This is going well, right? Hello? You are already doing an amazing job because this evening is especially meant to meet people and to talk. So this we're going to absolutely repeat again later on the evening. Hello, I want to welcome you in the Kazerne at the Innovation Café. We have 3 really nice speakers today again. And it's of course one of the theme nights about the vision of Eindhoven. Good, perfect reminder. If there's anybody else who wants to switch their sound off, this is a perfect moment. And next to the speakers, also Evelien from Dembrane is present again. She captures all the audios of this series about the city of Eindhoven and the city vision. And well, we come back to that afterwards, but then you know already. I would like to introduce Walter, Joseph and Ankita. Both are going to present first what they do, and then of course we have a nice conversation and you can ask all the questions you want. Both parties said, please ask us critical questions because we're especially here tonight to meet people that we don't normally meet and opinions that we want to hear from the people outside our own scope. So please feel free to do so. Thank you. Then Joseph and Ankita, I would very much like you to kick off. Thank you.
Hey, good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you all. A lot of unfamiliar faces for me, so that's a goal that I've achieved, meeting with new people. This is Ankita. I'm in the Netherlands and an Eindhovenaar for the last 6 years, so I'm very happy to be here and meet fellow Eindhoveners and the rest of the audience. I'm here together with Joseph today, and we've founded what we call iBUiLT, so that's International Business and Innovation Leaders in Tech. We have a very brief agenda for you today. We're going to quickly go over who we are, what we do, and how you can get involved with us. Yes, who we are. As I mentioned, iBUiLT, International Business and Innovation Leaders in Tech. A couple of faces here are also in the audience, so happy to see some supporters as well. Yeah. Yes. What I wanted to start was, I think, few months before this cafe that we had, Joseph and I had met to talk about life in general and our need to want to give back to the community that's given us so much. That's actually the first meeting when the idea of iBUiLT was born. But we actually met 4 or 5 years ago at a diversity and inclusion workshop where Joseph was chairing and facilitating. And we realized that we have a lot of very similar ideals and we'd want to work together. So that's a little bit about how we met. And Joseph is going to dive a little bit deeper into some of the drivers and some keywords about our community.
So thanks, Ankita. Yeah. So a few years ago when I gave that workshop where Ankita attended, and then afterwards, we started talking about internationals and their life journey in this country. I was triggered to think about my own journey and also about what motivates people to come here. And recently I started a study. I'm studying in Rotterdam School of Management in Erasmus University. And I was tasked to come up with something called a positive change project. So something where I can give back to the community that I have been part of for a long time. And I started thinking about my own journey and also the feedback I got over the years from all the expats I met. And I realized that expats and internationals that come here, they have special motivation or drivers. They are normally very curious people, but also they are very courageous, because what they do is they go and they explore and they actually change their environment. And what also helps them to make this big step of relocating themselves, their family, their career, is that they have a passion, that there is something that drives them that's bigger than just being part of a family or being part of a country. And they normally look for progress. They are motivated to make an impact and change things around them. But in doing so, in my own experience and also from the people I talk to, they come across a lot of challenges. They enter new situations they have never met before. They go through a lot of personal hurdles, relocating themselves, coming with a family, or being detached from their own family when they come here. And also professionally, because we take it for granted maybe how things work in the Netherlands or in Eindhoven in terms of work culture, but you should know that work culture can be very different in other countries. So all these hurdles come on top of the traditional challenges that come with the job that they do here. And that leads these people to acquire certain skills that they develop very early in their career. And you can think of it like that. Going to a different country and starting your life there is a venture. It's just like starting a company. And the company is essentially your life. So it's also a matter of life or death almost that it has to succeed. So these people are highly driven. They are very agile, by the way, because failure is not an option. So they always find a way to make it work. And that's a skill that can be used a bit more in their work, in their professional life. And so my point is that the ecosystem is kind of missing an opportunity to make use of those acquired skills of this group of people, and that those people are also missing an opportunity to create more impact than what they are doing in their daily job at the moment. And this essentially triggered us to start iBUiLT and build our mission and connect with lots of people like you to look at what the problem is and try to improve.
Yeah. There's a lot of text on that slide, but essentially at iBUiLT we're working in two pillars. So as we said, we have expats coming into the Netherlands, the Eindhoven region, and they come here for work opportunities a lot. We identified that there's quite a lot of potential in this pool, and people in this pool would like to develop themselves from their current positions into leadership levels. And there is a bit of a cultural barrier, as we already mentioned, but there's also other barriers which we'd like for them to be able to have a platform to discuss on and shared experiences. So that's what iBUiLT is all about. We also have a second pillar that we're focused on at iBUiLT, and that is that of startups and scale-ups. So a lot of the international startups and scale-ups, or people who come from different backgrounds, don't have the access, or maybe that's not the right word, but they don't have, or there's a bit of a wall that's driving them away from these startups or growing their startups and scale-ups. So we'd like to be able to provide them with a platform to get that kind of information. So in the form of workshops, in the form of talks by other expat-led, international-led startups. So that's the idea of iBUiLT, basically to build a self-sustaining community in Eindhoven. I want to say something. We have a team member who's, I will show you a little bit later as well. And she said something to us when we started this and pitched the idea to her. And she said, I wish this was there when I came to Eindhoven. I wish there was a community that I could bank on for my questions as a potential leader in this community. So that really resonated with us, and we said, okay, we're going on the right direction. So that's a little bit of what we're doing. The idea is essentially to bring down the walls and break barriers such that the internationals or the expats can also feel fully integrated, not just in terms of culture, but also in terms of development opportunities and growth. That's our wonderful team. You've already seen me and Joseph. I'm Indian Dutch. Joseph is Egyptian Belgian. So I'm really specifying this because we want to show the diversity with which our team is built on. We have Mihaela, who's our public relations manager. She is a postdoctoral researcher at Tilburg University and is Italian-Romanian. And we have Myra, who's our social media specialist, and she's the social media content lead at ASML. And she's Malaysian with the ethnicity of Kadazan. So we have a very diverse team. As you can see, I'm so proud to be a part of a team which has so many females as well. And I think that was not something we intended, but it just so naturally happened. What is it that we do? So we are working on the 2 pillars, like I mentioned. We're working on having a network of aspiring leaders and entrepreneurs. Both of us, Joseph and I, and also the rest of our team really feels for the ESG targets. And we wanted this to be an inclusive community. So basically creating that ecosystem for internationals here in Eindhoven. We'd like to be able to connect startups and corporates and academia and policymakers for topics that truly matter for this community. We're also wanting, one of the key things that we decided when we started this initiative was knowledge sharing, because that's one of the biggest barriers that expats and internationals have today, that they don't know where to find the information or who to contact for whatever, legal related discussions for a startup, where do I get the financing, so on and so forth. And finally, exploring Eindhoven as a truly international networking community and city.
Ankita mentioned ESG and Sustainable Development Goals, and we are really honored to be here today because we think that by looking at problems from a different perspective, and I suspect that Walter will get into that later, we can actually make the progress, the fast progress that we need on the Sustainable Development Goals. So by engaging this international community that has a different perspective on today's issues, we can enrich the number of ideas and the diversity of the ideas that can be useful in these times. So we will end our talk now with a small call for action.
Yes, Myra, we're really missing her tonight, by the way. She's busy at other engagements, but Myra has worked really hard along with us on curating a social media page, so we're using her expertise here. So we have a LinkedIn page where you can scan on your phones to interact with us. You can reach out to us via our LinkedIn page, of course. All of our latest workshops and activities will be posted on our LinkedIn page. We also are working on making it an interactive page in the sense that we like to also reshare articles and insights on experts on the field of expat entrepreneurship and leadership. We have a very interesting event coming up on the 3rd of April 2025, which is the Common Ground for Innovation Awards. We specifically call it Common Ground because there is a lot of common ground between the locals and the expats, and that's what we'd like to highlight this through our event. And finally, if you're interested in partnering with us or contributing more towards the community, you can reach out to us at iBUiLT@zekrytech.com.
Normally I have a first question for you, but I actually have a first question now for the audience. Who of you isn't born here in this region? and who of you identifies as a perfect member for this group? Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. Thank you. Thank you. What would you, because you talked about a positive impact, and and positive change. When do you feel that that you have succeeded? What is the goal that you're working towards?
Well, we are trying to figure out the goal as we go, so it's a moving target, I think. But for me, it's this feeling of belonging, because when you change your environment and your culture, you want to see that you're making impact and that you're recognized for it, and there is a community that cares about your growth. It's difficult to measure, but it is that feeling. If we can create it and nurture it and improve it in this part of our ecosystem, I think then we have reached our goal.
Great, thank you. And then immediately I'm going to ask you something, Walter. How could I have phrased my questions differently? Because I asked, of course, to a goal, and immediately I thought, oh no, I need to stay with the problem. How would you have phrased my question?
I don't know what you would like to get out of your question, so but depending on what you want to get out of it, start with what is the problem that you have encountered and that you're encountering daily, or what your members are encountering daily, and then you start talking to those members. Since I might be a member of their team, I'm not, why am I not in there?
Okay, then thank you. Then I think I know what I wanted to ask. What is the most important value for you that you want to reach?
I think this word is so overused, but I will have to use it again for the lack of a better word. I think it's integration. Like I said, common ground. We have so much common ground between the locals and the expats. One of them being the drive for excellence, one of them being the passion for technology that's popped up in the region. And I think that would be one of the most important things for me, to be able to highlight that common ground and integration between these two groups. There is a lot that divides us in terms of culture and backgrounds and so on, and values, but there are a lot of common values which we can, I think, work together towards. What I want to add is, unfortunately, we had the passing away of a very important business person in India last night. And I was just, thinking about some of the things that he said. He said, if you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk together. And I think that's one of the things that we'd like to see, that this community of ours is enabling that.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm going to talk on this one. I'm going to give you this one. Walter, you may go there, go sit there. Take a nice chair. Take a nice chair. Walter, how do you become a wicked problem officer?
I'm low tech, so you can switch this off. I have no PowerPoints. I'll share a little bit of my story, and eventually I get to become a wicked problems officer at Eindhoven Engine. I'm not from this region, as I nicely raised my hand. I'm not from this region. I'm not an engineer, which is no doubt my real value added in Eindhoven Engine and for this region, by the way. I'm an econometrician by training, and for 10-15 years I've tried to build econometric models basically in finance. It's the best way to become rich, but after 10-15 years you really understand that it doesn't work. And that is highly frustrating, believe me. If you graduate in the 70s of previous century, that's as old as I am, I can't change it anymore, then you believe your professor. So if they say you can build the world with econometrics, you believe that and you start doing that, right? And suddenly you find out that you can't anticipate roughly nothing, but you can't anticipate financial markets, you can't anticipate the weather, you can't anticipate loads of things. As I say, I got frustrated and I thought, you know what, I'm going to do my PhD, become an academic, and then I have the rest of my life to think about why it doesn't work. And that's exactly what I've done. So I became an academic, I've been in different countries in the world. But much more interesting is the first step I made from econometrics, which was sort of the neighbors, was in those days artificial intelligence. I'm talking long ago. I've papers published with a data set of 50 observations. They would laugh you away today, but in those days you got published, right? So I went into artificial intelligence, and to my huge surprise, particularly neural networks, to keep it simple, were able to learn to move with that financial market. And I thought that was very intriguing, right? And then I thought, okay, what makes neural networks work? And then I fell, of course, on complexity theory, network theory, agents, interaction, you name it. And for the last 30 years of my career, I've been into complexity theory and innovation, long story short. So I've tried to look into the world from a complexity point of view, right? Complexity is not complicated, right? Complexity is something completely different. We all talk about complex systems, we mean complicated systems. And engineers are extremely good to solve complicated systems, since in a way they are easy. You know upfront the solution, roughly. You might improve it, make it cheaper, make it faster, use a new technology, whatever. But you roughly know where to go. In a real complex system, a system that is created by interaction of agents, you have no clue of what happens tomorrow. So you're lost. And that is why the problems we encounter today, the real problems that matter in society, we like to call them wicked. They do not have an upfront, immediate, easy solution. And therefore, the only way to tackle wicked problems is to really spend time to love the problem, to understand the problem. So to go further on your previous question to me, what you should have done is ask all those people that raised their hand that they should be member to ask, how did you like the talk and why aren't you yet member, right? That is what you could have done, and then you would have been surprised, and they would have been surprised, by the knowledge and insight you get from that. And by doing that, you start to feel, to understand, to know, to learn what the problem is. And maybe to your surprise, when you do that effort, you try to understand that with the people that have the problem. You don't do that for the people that have the problem, you do that with the people, right? The solution is going to pop up almost automatically. Now, then we go to the theme of the day, and I will answer your question how you become a wicked problems officer. You know, I didn't forget your question. But then we go to the theme of the day, which is the livable city, if you want to, the viable city. How can you build something where it is nice to live? Well, the only way to do that is you go into that city. You talk to everybody, but you can't talk to everybody. You try to understand what plays, and you make a huge systems map out of that. You're still not thinking in solutions, right? You're still thinking in understanding the problem. We have a government these days that has solutions before they even have problems, yeah? So that is, of course, a real extreme, it's an extreme bad example of what you shouldn't do, right? Now, again, go back to what we classically do, and we are trained by that. Huh? Universities are reasonably guilty in that, since we train students to think like that. When I give you a problem, you immediately jump to a solution. The smartest person is the one that's fastest in finding a solution, right? Which is absolutely wrong. And I repeat, universities train students in doing that. We shouldn't do that. Huh? We should really train them in other things. Now going back to how to become a wicked problems officer. Eindhoven Engine is a cooperation between the TU Eindhoven, Fontis and TNO. What we want to do is we want to be, call it an innovation campus, an innovation accelerator, whatever. We want to do meaningful innovations, high-tech, low-tech, no-tech, meaningful innovations in problems that matter. And we've chosen 4 themes that we're going to tackle, and one of them is, by the way, the livable city, so that's not by accident. But that are really wicked problems. Wicked problems don't have a problem owner. And that's why it is so difficult to solve them, since nobody really owns that problem. We want to be, we want to play the role of that owner. We don't own it, but we want to play for a while that role of owner and bring together interested parties with them. I repeat, not for them, with them. Bring together interested parties to co-create solutions. And of course, if we need technology, we're going to use technology, but we're equally able not to do that. Now, to make now a long story short and finally answer your question, I was in France, in Aix-en-Provence, in order to create the camp, huge innovation campus. If you ever are there, you have to have a look. It's a 40 million project. It's a 10,000 square meter UFO in the middle of the nature of Aix with 164 bedrooms, hotel aside. And Maarten Steinboeg visited me there and wanted to know what we were doing. So I explained him roughly what we were trying to do. And he said, that's exactly what we want to do in Eindhoven, and therefore I want to create Eindhoven Engine. So you have to come and work with us. That's how you become a wicked problems officer. Now, since we want to deal with wicked problems, and my main role in Eindhoven Engine, and our director is there, so you can ask her whether it's true, yes or no, yes, is ask annoying questions. Right? A little bit like you correctly said. You ask a question and you're already into a solution mode. And I earn my money basically by saying, stop, this is already a solution. So now go back to your problem. What is your problem? If we don't do that, you end up with brilliant solutions. And there are brilliant solutions in the world in search for a problem. And that's a pity. Since it's a waste of time, a waste of money, a waste of effort, a waste of intelligence, etc. And the only thing we want to do is turn that around and say, okay, there are some problems, low literacy, inclusion in this region, which is a huge problem, which is one of the main problems we tackle. Livable city is one, future-proof healthcare. We have to start doing something on preventive health. In the Netherlands, you're well off if you're almost dead. Then you have huge, no really, then you have huge service. 112, brilliant. But if you're not yet dead, then it's a whole different story. Now, with people becoming older, I'm very sorry, and people becoming older, we have to pay more attention to that. And then the fourth theme is sustainability in the semiconductor chain. We could have taken 4 other themes. These are 4 wicked themes where there is no upfront easy solution. So the only way to do that is via a wicked problems approach. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Long answer. Huh? Sorry for that.
Very clear story.
Good.
I have another question. Since indeed it's today the Eindhoven City Vision event, and you said the wicked problems don't have a problem owner. How could you, because that's also the complicated situation, right? When you don't have a solution yet and you want people to keep looking at the problem, it's not nice to look at the problem. Or it can be very nice, but it's always a bit confronting. How can we, as a city, what should we do to love our problem a bit more?
You can't innovate if you don't confront, to start with. If you continue doing what you always did, you get what you always got. So if you want to innovate, you have to have the courage to question yourself, right? So, and yes, indeed, you might get answers that you don't like, that are challenging, that whatever, but you can't avoid that. If the purpose would be to avoid that, with respect, now we should stop immediately, since you're never going to get anywhere. So the thing to be done, I think, is that you have to get, in one way or another, people that have the problems that are around, that live them, that experience them, and that can tell, not you, but that can tell those people that sort of concentrate around trying to find eventually a solution, to talk and listen, specifically listen to those people. Bring all that together in what I like to call a systems map, so that you know that if you choose, I don't know, to have more, to double the capacity of ASML, or to add 500 employees to ASML. What does that mean? And then the university can say, oh, we're going to have 500 more students. How are you going to do that? How are you going to house them? How are you going to move them? How are you going, right? Do you have an electricity net that supports that? Yes or no? Etc., etc. I don't have the solution, I only have the approach, right? Since the solution is co-created with those people that have a living interest. And they sort of partly own the problem. Since you'll have to find people that partly own the problem, that feel that something should be done. And as I said, when I spoke about Eindhoven Engine, then you need a party, and we want to be such a party to say, look, for the time being, we'll be the owner of the problem. Right? So we'll orchestrate it, we'll bring it together, we'll move it on. But step one is you have to go to listen to those people that live the problem. And I'm pretty sure that we've not really done that. And then what you do, if you don't do that, what I suggest, then you say, hey, what is the most important question? I don't know what the most important problem is in Eindhoven, but say it's public transportation. It's probably not, but just to give an example, right? So then we're going to solve public transportation, since that's an easy one. We know how to do that. Eh? You talk to some people, you go to a few cities, you visit them, you copy it, and that's it, right? Did you solve anything? No. And most probably you created 2, 3 other problems by trying to solve your one public transportation one.
Thank you. I'm so curious how the municipalities. Yes, definitely. But now I feel like, okay, I sometimes also have clients. I'm a very good why questioner, so I'm always kind of a 3-year-old, and people are extremely annoyed by that. But now I feel how they feel. Then you're like, okay, so this is the process, and now what? What would you suggest? Now what?
Well, I would suggest, as I said, to bring together a number of people that live the different problems in the city. Really live down there, not thinking about them. We're all good in that.
Yeah.
We have a huge university here, and they're very good, like all universities, to think about the problems. Now, don't do that. Think with the problem, those that live, I don't like to call them problem owners, those that live the problem, those that experience on a daily basis. And they can tell you exactly where the problem is. I shared it with you, I share it with you. I went with my dog to bring 2,700 sheep from down in the Provence up to the Alps. And that was with 5 people that we would classify as low literate, right? And that in French. So they were absolutely able to explain me in all detail what the problem was of agriculture in their region. They were low literate, right? They were even, it was election time. They explained me why they all choose for Le Pen, knowing that it is not going to change anything. And by the way, they like Macron. Now you explain me, eh? They explained me. And it made sense. So if you go there, and you would have an interest to deal with agriculture and emission. Let's take that as a problem, which is a problem in the region, I guess, right? So agriculture and emission. Go and talk to those people, right? And listen to what their problem is, and don't try to solve problems that don't exist, which we're doing now for quite a while. There is too much emission. Oh, but technology is going to help us in doing what? That we have cows that, okay, we can maybe manipulate the cows, but we didn't do that. No? So that is what you should do. Now, you can't do that with 20,000 people, but you could do that with a few hundred people.
Shall we start with the people that are here? Maybe that's a very good idea. Then, so, yes, I'm going to walk into the audience and I'm going to ask you questions. But I'm first going to go back for one moment to Evelien. Can you very quickly explain us what you did? And then my question to you is, you and the software listen to both of the presentation. What is the topic that I definitely should address?
All right, good evening, everybody. My name is Evelien. I am co-founder of the startup Dembrane, and like she just explained, I recorded the audio of both sessions. They were live transcribed, and I have them right now in front of me. So I'm going to ask the question, what is the topic that the speakers should discuss? It's an interactive way of very quickly already talking with your data, diving a little deeper, but also what I create is a library where the common themes between the speakers are generated to show the values that are underlying. The idea behind this is that when you do this in a brainstorm session, during a citizen assembly, or just your community meetup at your local sport association, that you very quickly know what are the things that are being talked about, what is coming up, and zooming in on these topics so you can get to the core quicker and we don't have to talk in circles over and over and over again, but we actually build up on all the great ideas that are already being shared. So that's what we do with the vision of being able to get deep democratic practices into any community of any size for any session. And opening the chat, it says, sorry, reading and talking is quickly switching. It's talking indeed about the opportunities and problems by the expats and exploring them through this problem framework and how to go and approach about that, bringing these two views together.
Okay, so now we're gonna take the expat problem or the challenge of reframing your environment and ending up in a new situation through the wicked problem way of thinking. I think that's a very long night, but I think it's very interesting. Is there somebody already who has a starting question about this? Yes.
It's quite difficult to rephrase it because I'm also used in solution thinking, but let me try to this team. Is it a problem that you don't have locals in your team?
Very, very interesting question.
Yes, it's a big problem.
Why do you think it's a big problem?
Because all the Dutch people I talked to, they were not motivated enough to join us.
Very, very clear problem. Yeah.
Yeah, my question is, talking about inclusion in the Brainport region, why do you focus only on people with technical backgrounds? I mean, I personally sometimes get kind of frustrated because everyone, everything is focused in Eindhoven and Brainport region only on tech. It's tech, tech, tech. But there are also other people living here.
Yeah. You're not the first one to ask that one. Ankita, do you want to?
Yes, you're definitely not the first one to ask that. I think what we wanted to start off with is something that Joseph and I know best, and that's tech, unfortunately. Or fortunately, we can phrase it however. So that's why we said, because we can't, it's like eating the elephant in small bites, right? So we weren't able to say that we can solve problems of non-tech people, let alone solve problems of tech people, but we wanted to start somewhere. So we started, that's why we said, okay, we're going to scope ourselves to tech. That being said, we also looked at other challenges that expats face, and one of the challenges that expats pointed out to us to stay long-term in the Netherlands and want to integrate here was that a lot of their family or spouses are from a non-tech background and they don't feel like they can integrate themselves and build their careers in Eindhoven. What we said was, okay, that's not a problem that we can fix, but we can partner with people who can help these people. So we're also in the middle of talks with various institutes and organizations, to name a few, Blockverse and the Expat Spouse Initiative, for example. So we're also partnering with these people so that, if not directly, but at least indirectly help this area. But to keep it simple, we started with tech because that's really what we know best.
Yeah, so to first start with what you know, and then to later on hopefully build in a more richer environment and more diverse background also in disciplines. Yeah.
And just to make one point, if you see our team, there are only 2 engineers in a team of 4. So we are not excluding anyone. What we're trying to say is that this region has become so complex and almost so difficult to live in because of tech. So we are also focusing on the problem. And maybe the solution will be to include more groups and have this discussion like Walter said. But actually the cause of the problem, Eindhoven was a village in the 1920s when the Phillips brothers came and built a factory. So in practice, we shouldn't have been here, but we are. And that's where the problem comes from. So maybe the solution lies within the origin of the problem.
It is not a solution to just, since you immediately jump to solutions. So it's good that we limit to technology. No, it's not. You ignore her question. Her question is very valid. And one of their problems is if they stay within that technology, and you correctly say, which is not good. I mean, it's historically a sad situation, to say it nicely. But what you're doing is you're ignoring her remark, which is only one person. So now if you go to 4 or 5 or 6 of them, then you're able to redefine, if you want to, you're able to redefine what your organization should do if you would like to be more inclusive. But it is a bad solution to then say, okay, let's limit ourselves to the tech.
Yeah.
Since that's what you do, you've done that and you continue to do that, and you get further and further in the problem.
Yeah, I understand.
Yes, I'm Anna. I'm an expat and an expat coach. And we are always talking about how expat could better integrate in Eindhoven or wherever they live. But I think it's also interesting to look into how it is to be the people receiving, and how the people receiving new citizens can take benefit of it. Not only how to integrate, but how do we do that, and how can we get the power out of the connections also for the locals. And locals are not only the working people, we have also old people that could benefit, but how do they do? So I think there's another problem.
Yeah, so how can we organize a give and take situation from both sides? Do you have an idea for that, or how do you react on that?
Old age home, now in Eindhoven in the north, and they were very happy to receive someone who was a non-Dutch speaker at the time. And I think there is one example, right? So the integration aspect that we say that is not just on the onus of the expats, but also on the locals as well. That was, I think, the point you were making. So there I could really see, okay, hey, I'm feeling welcome, and I was trying to speak in my broken Dutch, and they were not connecting me with the with the intention, with a very good intention. So that is one part of it. So I think it really matters where the intentions are coming from. And you can't obviously force people. There's a lot of, I think, locals who I don't think even know what challenges of expats are on them, which is fine. They're not, exposed to that kind of, to the expats. So I think really what comes interesting. I know a lot of people who would probably but then there's also the thing, hey, I'd like to help you learn this beautiful language. So it's really on intentions from the people as well. Don't have good ideas.
Thank you.
I just want to sort of connect the questions then, because Joseph, you said people aren't motivated. So that was one of your remarks. You're saying we are constantly going to the expats, but not the locals. You're saying, oh, there might be some sort of hesitance for people to come to us. But then my question is, are you looking in the right places? Why do you say people aren't motivated? Have you met them, or is that just an assumption? Like your statement could also be sort of an assumption that we're missing people in that process. So my question would be first to you, what about that motivation? Did you really look at it?
So just to sum up, you said that locals didn't felt the importance of joining. That is what you mean, right? So where did you look into why they didn't felt the motivation to join?
I think it's an important question to answer, but I don't think I'm the one that should answer. Like Walter said, I'm not the problem man. So
I don't know.
So I can't speak for them. I just simply asked them. I told them we will start this community and the focus is on this group of people. I told the demographics, I told the numbers, and what seemed to me is that they did not see a problem to solve, right? Maybe I didn't ask them the right question, because maybe I should ask them what is their problem or what problem do they see in relation to this topic. So I think the locals also have their own concerns and needs. And that should also be addressed. But I think it can only be addressed if they join the conversation. So maybe you can join us.
Yeah. I also have to think of something you mentioned earlier, Walter, because for a wicked problem, which, well, what you're addressing especially definitely also is, you only have part ownerships. So you are partly owner of part of the problem. You address another group who has a part ownership of the problem here at hand. And I think it's indeed then an interesting, well, at least test or goal or thing that we want to try out, to then collect all those different groups, indeed with all those different small problems that are related, because it is about how do we live together, how do we team up, how do we create this situation of giving and taking and appreciating each other.
Yeah, I like that remark. And I think the reason we're here today is we want to make ourselves uncomfortable and actually say we want to work with others. We want to work with other organizations. We want to work with the city. Because we tried connecting with the city council and the city administration and simply no response. So that's not to say that they're not interested, but we can't solve anything by our own. We can only speak about the problem from how we see it, and we need to work with everyone else in the whole region to create this system map.
Yeah.
Because the solution is indeed in the intersection of all those different views.
Yeah. I saw a lot, so yes, I'm gonna.
I was so my name is Laurent. I work at ASML, like many people. I was asking myself a question about the words you have been using for the invitation. Imagine there's an invitation for car lovers. Who will be in the room? Only people who love the cars, right? The others will stay at home. If this is about international inclusion, only the people who recognize the problem will be in the room. If it's about lack of housing or expensive housing for Dutch locals with all these foreigners who are coming, maybe there will be more Dutch there. So if we go like that, maybe we need to find what is the point of interest common to all the people we want to reunite here together. I saw in your pitch it was about leadership. If you make an invitation about leadership, you will likely have Dutch people as well.
Thank you.
That is extremely correct what you say. What you should have done is went further into her in your problems, etc., and then eventually bring the whole thing together and find out what the problem was. By the title that you suggest, you already give half of the answer. So you limit the people that are coming, as you say. Since if I'm not interested in that, why would I go? Whereas if you open it up and you say, look, there are some issues in this town of integration for expats and for non-expats, people that have difficulty to integrate being locals and that don't feel at home anymore in their own town, then you would start to get together the people with whom you can start a conversation.
So first of all, I think it's very brave for the two of you to be here and to be open and to, of course, then you receive a lot of also criticism and what you could do more, right? So first of all, very good. Then I could be considered a local. I lived in this region for most of my life. I'm also really very concerned with the divide that's kind of building up, and with all the plans will be bigger if we don't act. But I also believe, and of course we have a lot of discussion on these kind of topics with Walter and with all other colleagues, that if you kind of seek for more problems, then maybe your solution space is also growing. So for instance, just to mention something that pops up in my mind from my own experience, I'm a member of a sporting vereniging, a sporting union. Of course, there are a lot of adults there are a lot of kids, there are a lot of kids from expats. But these unions, all the Dutch unions share the same problems, that the people that do the work there, they are getting older, they're getting less of them, everybody is very busy. So that's the kind of things that the locals experience as a problem. Now this, of course, not wanting to jump into solutions immediately, but that's the kind of pairing of problems that we could seek, but then indeed we need to have the locals here as well.
Thank you.
Can I comment?
Yes.
First of all, you're welcome to join us so we can make it more inclusive. And just to comment on your question, because there was a solution suggested there, and I think that one level deeper to ask this question is, why is sport something why is it organized like this, right? Why is it organized by volunteers only? So it's a cultural thing. So you need to understand then the culture, and when you invite expats to work here, you shouldn't expect them to immediately understand what the hidden rules are, because there is a hidden rule that you have to volunteer. I learned that, but only after 15 years. Then I started this community with Ankita. But it took me 15 years to figure it out. And now people come to me and they say, well done, because that's what you should be doing. But so there is something missing there in terms of culture. You need to ask yourself, why is the system like this and why don't people get it?
Yeah, well, a lot has already been said what I actually wanted to add, and indeed I think the problem description here is the problem. I've seen many similar initiatives for expats failing, by the way, also in Aix-en-Provence. And yeah, you combine too many different problems, frame them as expat, and that I think will go nowhere. So you should be more specific.
That's good feedback, yeah.
So now I have a question. So on one hand, we need to be more specific to be able to address the problems that people have better. But on the other hand, we should group more people with different problems, because then we might find a solution. Walter, can you help me with this?
I of course, definitely disagree. I mean, that's evident. You do that. What you're doing is you try to limit the problem to something that is accessible, and you sort of simplify a problem that can't be simplified. By doing that, you find a solution that isn't a solution to your problem. So what you mentioned, just to go further on yours, is you have to learn the culture in order to know that you have to volunteer in this country. I'm a foreigner also, so I had the same experience as you. Now, that is part of the problem. Has it ever occurred in any of the discussions of integration in the town? No, that's one we miss. And I can go further. We miss a lot of elements that play a role, and we can exclude them, but I think we are not going to get to a solution of the problem area, which is inclusion. If you agree, the problem wider, it's what also you say, Anna, it's inclusion as much as for expats, locals, whatever.
What I said, sorry for that. That was
I'm
my
sorry,
mistake.
yeah.
That was my mistake. Yeah, it's always the sender. So being specific, doesn't mean that I want to reduce all the problems to one problem. You have to be specific about the many different problems. So, for instance, the cliché with expat is indeed bureaucracy, but that's a problem also shared with the locals, for instance. And the cultural clash, you have to be more specific. That is a very different situation for somebody from India, who is an engineer, or somebody from the United States, who is an artist. So you have to be specific in that regard. That does not mean that you oversimplify.
Okay, so no simplifying, but making things more specific. And then I also have to think about what you just said. When you meet a person to person, then all of those things disappear in a sense, right? So then you don't have the group. I think that's also what you say. Then you have the group of just expats, but then you have the individuals with the individual problems. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand.
I just have a very short remark. You should think about that there are different kinds of inclusion. Are you focusing on social inclusion, cultural inclusion, physical inclusion, etc., etc.? Maybe that could be the first starting point. Thank you.
So we're not only enlarging the group of people who have a role to play in inclusion, but also the different types of inclusion. So I think we're really doing well on this bigger problem thing this evening, so that's nice. Yes.
Well, so one of the things that I've been wondering about during this discussion, to understand the problem more deeply, is whether we have data on where expats live and where locals live. And to what degree do they live next to each other, and are they neighbors? And to what degree are they more grouped together and in that way more separated from each other? Because then you can think differently about the problem. Because if you are neighbors and you're still not really, you don't really have that cohesion or that inclusion with each other, then you can think differently about what has to be done about that than the fact that they are not really like physically close to one another. So it's more of an open question, but I was wondering if we have an understanding of that in this city.
Would this help us?
I think it exists. Paul, I think those data exist now. I think that Eindhoven knows pretty well where expats live, and they even know where low literate people live. Can you imagine? We can't find them, but we know where they live. So does it help? Everything helps if you want to do something with it. But if it is just to have those data, which we have now for 20 years, no, it doesn't help. You can pile up data, but that's not the problem. What is the problem? That the people live, feel, experience, and we have the tendency to quantify all that, and I'm the first one. I'm trained to do that. So, but it doesn't bring you closer to the experience. Now, if you want to solve an issue, then you'll have to get closer to what people really live, what they experience. And their data doesn't help. It's good to know. I don't say it's not good to know, but we know it. I might be wrong, but I think we know roughly for 99%.
Then I'm gonna use your words as the perfect bridge to the end of this conversation here in this space. Because if we need to experience and if we need to talk more to each other and need to understand better what the problems are, then I would very much like to invite you to go and have a drink at the bar, to talk to each other, to hear what each other's problems are, what you can give, what you can take, and how we look at this very complicated, interesting city that Eindhoven is. And I would also very much like to invite you for the next Innovation Café of next week. I practiced the names, but I'm gonna misspell them anyhow, so I'm gonna wait one moment. Yes, because next week from MADE we have Desira, and from Studio Indirect we have Shang Zhuang. Again, it will be a very, very interesting conversation, and I'm very happy to see already some faces coming back, and it's a very nice community that's being created here at the Kazerne by Annemoon. She didn't want to say anything, but I wanted to thank her anyhow for hosting this, and I hope to see you at the bar. Thank you, Walter. Thank you, Joseph.
Thank you.
Thank you, Annika.
Thank you so much.